leveraging high road leadership for our content. And by the way, guys, if there's something else from yesterday, value all people, you want to bring in, I may cover a couple topics just to make sure they got hit since I wasn't here yesterday. And of course, today we're in chapter 3, acknowledging your humanness, which I think is really going to be powerful. Open some eyes, open some hearts. This is your opportunity today to really get authentic, to show up as who you are, and to really dive into just acknowledging your humanness and being there. So, as always, I could talk for 30 minutes, yet I love having this be your room instead of mine. So what do you guys have?
Okay, I'm going to go first. Good morning, everybody. I have all my life, because my background was learning of Christian when I was young, and then later on I learned Buddhism and Zen. So my whole mind is always being, what can I do? Well, whatever I say at the highest possible quality of a person. And so that's what I live on. Everything I do, even to tenant, even to buyer, seller, or whatever situation, I'm always bringing the highest possible of the person quality and recognize them and appreciate them for that. But however, yesterday I had a really wonderful team member call me and say, Elizabeth, I love you. I appreciate you so much. You raised up my life, but I want to quit EXP. I said, why? He said, because you only talk, but you don't teach me. How do I survive? I said, yes, we did. And he said, no, you don't use these leadership ability to teach me so I can be more productive, so I can be truly a leader, that I can help people. I'm like you. I want to help people, but I feel like I'm so left out. And I say, wait, but I call you every week. I do everything. You want me to buy you dinner, whatever. I always doing it. He said, yeah, I know. That's why I stay, because you. But you need to figure out how to using all these books you're teaching and make it to a production machine, like networking or meeting or whatever, teaching us, because we don't have as depth as you are, but we want to learn to use this skill so we can have better success in our business. So my question is, how do I really implement all these learning and help the newer agent able to be part of, like building an empire with the compassion and leadership. Ross, your voice
We
is
absolutely can dive into that today if that's where you guys want to go. And I would love to hear from some of you because, it sounds like you might be having a little challenge with, gosh darn it, getting people to actually plug in. By the way, Elizabeth, how many times has he been on the morning mindset call?
not often. Not often enough.
So he hasn't shown up to this conversation.
Yeah. I've been reading the book, however.
Well, he hasn't shown up, though. He hasn't plugged in. So it's fun because I was having this conversation with somebody else in the room earlier today. And I love this version. You can lead a horse to water,
but you can't can't force them to drink.
Come on, finish it up, guys. You know what he's saying.
Force them to drink. What's the next piece after that?
But you can salt their oats.
Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Repeat that, please.
But we can salt the roads.
Okay.
We can create a little pain. We can create a little thirst. And that comes from asking great questions. Because right now, he is blaming his lack of production on what?
On someone else.
On someone else.
On his broker.
On his broker. Whatever it is, it's the finger outward. And yet that's why I asked this question. It needs to be the question I asked. Well, how many times have you shown up? Kim and I were talking about this earlier because she's got some fascination. That's not our word, frustration. We eliminate that word and it's fascination about people that are running into the same thing. They're not producing. So you're going to start asking them questions about what they're doing to produce. And then my favorite question, as client and others in this room have gotten before, as I start digging about what's happening in their world, I will then ask in the moment, okay, send me a screenshot of next week's calendar. Send that to me right now. And I bet when you look at it, there's absolutely no work plan in their life. So let me ask you, agent, if you had a job and you had no plan to go to work, how long would you have that job? Be gone, right? Number two.
Gotta have a plan.
Another great question for these agents. By the way, this applies across the board to help get production up. What is your job description as a real estate agent? What are the odds, the answer they're going to give you, Elizabeth?
Selling houses. That's what this
Selling houses. Yep. And I appreciate that. And that's actually not the job description. There's 4 parts of the job description: lead generate, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts. That's the job description.
Right.
So I've got to ask you, looking at your calendar, how many, by the way, are you a full-time real estate agent?
Yeah, he is.
And that means how many hours a day minimum if you have a full-time job?
He actually do daily.
7
like
to 8.
crazy.
8.
Yeah,
Right?
more.
7 to 8 hours.
8 or more. So
Yeah,
let me ask
absolutely.
you yesterday, how many hours did you spend lead generating, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiating contracts?
When you put it like that, that is a lot of clarification. Because essentially, if we have a job that we're not doing the job description for that period of time and we don't have the results, it is because we have not done the job for the time allotted given to us to do that job. Man, that was clarifying. Thank you.
It's time on task, always. Here's where it gets fun, though. Going back to this agent, though, have we now shifted the conversation to everything that's in his control? Can he really do a thing about his broker? Can he really do a thing about Elizabeth? All the things we blame, usually we have zero control over for the natural human. And yet getting back to our content, this self-awareness, that's what you're helping them get to. You're helping them become self-aware that, you know what, I'm not actually doing my part. I'm not doing the work. I always break it down a little further, client. Did you have any contracts to negotiate yesterday? And what's always the answer for a person in this situation?
No.
Did you have any appointments that you had to go on yesterday to show houses or take a listing? And what's always the answer?
And if they say no, again.
So then how many hours should you have been doing lead gen and lead follow-up?
For that entire period of time to accomplish the goal.
How many conversations would you have if you actually did that all day?
Probably about 20 or 30 at the very least.
Well, let's use your number of 24. Let's meet in the middle. So 8 hours, that's talking to just 3 people an hour. If you hired somebody to talk to people and they only talk to 3 people an hour, how long would you keep paying them?
Not long at all.
We get to help the people in our world who are suffering because they can't pay their bills.
Mhm.
Chapter 3 gets self-aware. By the way, in this entire conversation, Mark, how many things have I told them so far?
In the book.
I've told them nothing. It's all been questions because that's how we actually get self-aware. So in this content, as we're going through it, and I want to bust back into some key points for me. Are you really asking yourself one of the great pieces in here to get you out of negativity? One of the ways to do this is to ask what instead of why. Are you really asking yourself a lot of what questions? What should I be doing today? What happened with that yesterday that it didn't go the way I wanted it to?
How can I?
I thought
Well,
I
got you, Tom.
thought
Well,
that
go with it, Tom. And then I'm
Well,
going to come to you, Brian.
So I did a speech, and I'm working on a longer speech, and the whole thing is the premise of why. We talk about a big why and things like that, but just to kind of paraphrase what I've said, why really takes you back to a moment when. It doesn't propel you forward. It tries to assign, it's an attempt to assign meaning to something that's happened in the past, something for which you have no control. And to me, that was something major. And what was really funny to me was when he was reading that, I was going, wait, he stole that from me. And of course, anybody hearing that would say, oh, I stole it from him. But anyway, if you think about it, how often do you find yourself asking, why can't I be more like him? Why can't I achieve what I want to achieve? This constant questioning leaves us trapped in a cycle of doubt and inaction. Instead of using that, we should use why as a mental GPS or as an alarm that actually wakes us up and says, wait a minute, that's the wrong question.
So, yeah,
Where am I now?
We actually should never use why.
Right.
Why is a disempowering question. Why sucks the life out of you. Why goes to negative.
What do I want? What am I willing to do to get there? How am I going to do it? What am I going to put in place, like this morning call, so that I can get my mindset so that I'm moving in the direction I need to move?
When am I going to pick up the phone and call my coach? And by the way,
Yeah.
the most important question, and it's always this way, it's all about the who. It really is all about the who. Who can I leverage? Who will help me? Who should I have in my life? I want you all to become owls. Client, what did you have?
I was just still kind of talking, that what versus why, because I had always heard that in order for you to properly assess where you're at, you have to ask yourself, what's the big why? So if you're saying why is the wrong question, that kind of leaves me at a loss. Did I miss something?
Yes.
No, but why is a question versus why is a statement? This is why I'm doing it, not why didn't it work out?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I got you.
Can I
Thank you.
thank you guys for allowing me to be here this morning? But you just said something phenomenal for as long as I've been in the business, and I just need to kind of make sure I jot it down. So I went and grabbed my little book, and I need you to repeat those 4 things because I think I only got 2. 4 things,
So
the job
who is
description
actually
of a
talking?
realtor, please.
This is
Who's
Saline.
actually
There's your
talking?
job description, my
I'm
dear.
sorry, this is Saline, and I got
Okay,
invited
gotcha.
by Mr. Client, and I appreciate that, Client.
This, by the way, these 4 are going to change the trajectory of your real estate business today, aren't they?
It has already changed me in 2 seconds, but tell me again.
And by the way, I'm giving you these in priority order. In other words, this
Right.
is how we schedule them out. Lead generate. And in my world as your coach, this means creating new relationships. Lead follow up. This is nurturing existing relationships. Go on appointments. negotiate contracts. So they're in priority order. So this is how we schedule them. They are in the reverse importance order. So I just have a question, Saline. If magically all you had to do all day, because contracts were just coming at you, was negotiate contracts all day. That's all you did. You just were dealing with listing contracts and negotiating buyers and sellers, and that's all you did all day. Would you be an extremely wealthy woman?
For a moment.
No, forever. If that's all you did for the next 5 years of your life, because you had system, processes, and people doing this all, so you just sat at your desk and you were negotiating contracts all day, you'd be obscenely wealthy. Life would be wonderful.
Right.
Yeah? So let's go to
Because that's the fourth step.
If all are, so that's most important. Right above that, appointments. If somehow magically every morning you got up and you had back-to-back listing appointments every day, you had 4 or 5 listing appointments every single day, would you be a very wealthy realtor?
I think I would. Definitely.
And if we don't have contracts to negotiate, we don't have appointments to go on, then the only thing we should be doing is follow up and then lead gen.
Okay, gotcha.
Existing relationships, because we talk all the time. Again, it's all about the relationships. By the way, what's the absolute most important relationship based on the content today?
Say that again.
What's the most important relationship? The most important relationship you have based on the content today?
Self-awareness.
Otherwise known as the relationship you have with yourself.
Self-awareness.
Yeah. The relationship you guys get to have with yourself. And so I love this section he had. And I'm going to read the story into the room because it was just so powerful on this self-awareness / great relationship with yourself. A wise woman traveling in the mountains found a precious stone in a stream. The next day, she met another traveler who said he was hungry, and the wise woman opened her bag to share her food. The hungry traveler saw the precious stone and asked the woman to give it to him. She did so without hesitation. The traveler left, rejoicing in his good fortune. He knew the stone was worth enough to give him security for a lifetime. But a few days later, he came back to return the stone to the wise woman. "I've been thinking," he said. "I know how valuable this stone is, but I give it back to you in hopes that you will give me something even more precious. Give me what you have within you that enabled you to give me."
Wow.
That's what we're building here today. We always have people telling me, give me leads. Give me something to help me in my business. And the reason this room exists and this team exists is because we are instead helping you get things that are much more precious that'll make that happen automatically, to use our new favorite word. You keep growing. As I've told you guys before, and the new folks can write it down, your business grows to the extent that you do. So these conversations, Elizabeth, with these other people, tell me what to do to be successful in this business. Well, we're going to give you a little of that, and yet we're going to tell you who to be, because we know it's be, do, have. What else you guys pulling from the content?
Russ, hold on. I got to stop you. You have no idea the diamonds that you just dropped for the new people that are here for the first and second time. Y'all need to give that brother a little applause. He just dropped some serious wisdom. And I've heard him say stuff like that before, but it hit me a little differently this morning. Kudos. That's all I got to say.
Client, thank you for that. And just know I'll be dropping it again and again and again and again over the next decade you guys are with me, because this is getting back to the foundational material. As we talked in our last book, it's not I got to learn 40,000 things. I got to learn 12 things that I do 40,000 times. So like learning these little pieces that the content is bringing to the surface of who we get to be, being self-aware that for those that are new to the room, you're surrounded by people that have been here for the last 8 months. When we first started this whole content-based mindset, we shifted this room to content-based. I'm looking at a room full of readers. It's not that they're reading the do part. It's that they've truly become readers and they're just taking in information every single day. And by you guys being here, oh, there's another one of those B words. You're going to be behaving differently. And all of a sudden you're going to be believing differently, especially believing in yourself differently, the self-awareness, and continuing to grow. What else you guys have from the content?
So, Coach, forgive me. I don't have the physical book, but I was listening to it. I'm not sure if it was 2 or going into 3. I can't remember. Maybe 1 going into 2.
I love them both.
Yeah, I do too. One of the things that hit me really hard is when he said loving people unconditionally. And for me, I had to go back and check my heart, because why we're doing all this good stuff, this go-giver, and are you really truly doing it to give? Or are you doing it to
Get.
process that you're going to receive if you give? And last night, I was thinking about this all day yesterday, because I was going around dropping off the book from last month's read. I dropped 3 of those off to agents that I've got great relationships. And by the way, I had one agent, I knocked on her door and she was so excited to see me. It was like meeting a long lost friend. It was absolutely wonderful. So I suggest you do it. But anyway, I was reflecting on that thought process. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Right. And I know when you go there, like one of the things Don always says, hey, don't leave without offering her to be a part of the group. But I asked her lots of questions, but I have to be honest, I didn't ask her any questions about real estate. None of the questions I asked her was about real estate. And I wanted to, in my heart, I'm trained to ask about real estate, how her business is, how it could be a 10, all that stuff. And I didn't ask any of that. And I was kind of on a schedule, but I was at her house for probably a good hour. And it was absolutely wonderful. And as I was driving to the next one, I kept asking myself, why are you doing this, Mark? Why are you doing this? Are you truly loving these people unconditionally? And then last night I was in a Bible study, and a lot of the kids in my Bible, I say kids, they're in their 30s, right? And you talk about a cultural difference, right? And so I said, you know what, Mark, do you really love every single guy in this group unconditionally? And so I brought up a topic about texting. These guys don't text back. And like, why don't you text back? And conversation was so freaking heated last night. It was unbelievable. I kept asking myself through this whole time, do you love these people unconditionally? Do you love these people unconditionally? Because that's what John says. And I'm not there yet. I'm not. And so it was really good. And it was funny because at the end of the conversation, one of the guys walked into me, he said, we would never be friends, Mark. He said, you're just too, what I said, dude, I love you, man. And just because we think different doesn't mean that I have a different opinion. I just want to know why you don't text back when somebody sends you a text and I don't hear from you for 3 days. I'm just trying to understand that. So my point is that I don't have it all down, but I love being in this group because we're reminded each and every day based on the content, something different and something that's profound. And John Maxwell hit it right on the head. And he even says, as he was growing up and went to this first church and to his second church, it took to his second church before he realized that he really loving everybody unconditionally. And so it's making me check my own boxes. Are you really doing this unconditionally, Mark? Are you really going to these people and dropping off this book because you love them as a person unconditionally? The answer is no. I'm working on it, is what I'm saying. So,
So I want to shift that slightly for you, Mark, and maybe help. And I want to do this twofold because not everybody maybe got the content from last chapter, this piece, because there's 3 keys to valuing all people and really taking the high road with them. Number 1 is this valuing people, which comes from embracing their worth, that everybody is unique and that I can learn something from everybody. Number 2 is believing in people. Belief speaks to the potential you see in them. You guys know I believe every single one of you is $1 million producer.
Right.
You may be masquerading as 100,000, a 50,000, a $250,000. Yet I know that you have the possibility of being that. And then number 3 is this unconditional love accepts others with no strings attached. And so sometimes we go into it with, I'm going to love them to get something, like you said, Mark. I want you just to take that to the higher level and know I'm going to love on them because the universe is going to bring it back. I'm in this room almost every day, 9 a.m., to love on you guys, to pour on to you, help you, to answer. Everybody's got my cell phone number. You guys text and call, and we have great conversation. I'm loving on you. And yes, it's unconditional. I'm not expecting anything from you. I'm absolutely expecting and knowing that my creator is going to deliver amazing things to me. I keep doing this. So that's the key shift I want you to do mentally, Mark, is that, yes, I'm doing this out of love. And you give this book, and I see this happen all the time in my world now as I've leaned into this. You give this book to Agent A, who talks to Agent B, who talks to C, who talks to D, and magically D calls you and says, hey, I want to talk to you about something. It always happens. It comes full circle. You guys just have to lean into being this person. And I'm also always leaning and being into a person of punctuality. So it is Wednesday. It is the bottom of the hour. And we do this 30 minutes. Guys, get into the content. Chapter 4 tomorrow. Get caught up on the reading if you haven't done it yet. And if you don't, that's okay too. Be here with an open heart because we love you how you show up. Today, Wired Wednesdays, 1 to 2 o'clock Central in this room. You guys have a technology expert, a KV Core expert sitting here with you in Maria Villalobos, and she gives an hour every week to help you guys implement your CRM at a high level. So make sure you plug in with her 1 to 2. And then 2 to 5 in this room, people are making their conversation time happen, supporting each other, doing that. So by all means, guys, make that happen.